Alright, so hey guys, so welcome to another Warframe video, and today I want to break down a diff stream 118. Now, I don't do these an awful lot because I prefer to talk about things that I've experienced myself rather than something someone else said was cool, but this diff stream was pretty special. So the first big thing is that we now know that they want to release Fortuna during the first week of November. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that they will, they might push it back a week or two, but the plan is to release it during the first week of November. And there was also a mention about the Switch port of Warframe, which should apparently launch on November 20th. They then talked about Fortuna and the open world that comes with Fortuna, more in depth, like the example of caves, and that they will have multiple different purposes, so you'll be able to fish in them, mine stuff, and some cave drive races, we'll go through them as well. They talked about different types of bounties, and one example that was shown was just go and kill X amount of this dude, which I think is kind of nice, and it should break up the standard bounty cycle that we've had in Plains, which basically just emulated a mission within the Plains. I really like this because sometimes when you're doing bounties in the Plains, it can feel like you're just doing a normal mission with a bigger skybox. And I think this will really liven it up in a good way, especially since you don't have to go back to town to get another bounty, you can just get it in the open world. Now, tied into that a little bit was a mention about a new mechanic coming with Fortuna fishing, because you're throwing an EMP spear at an electric fish. So instead of just hitting it with a spear, not only will you have to hit a marked spot on the fish, you will also have to time it right to hit it at a certain frequency to actually disable it. So it does seem like fishing in Fortuna is going to be a little bit more difficult than just fishing in the Plains. Now, fishing isn't the only thing that will change, mining will be a little bit different as well, and as far as I understand, this will apply to the Plains too. And they did show us how it works, so instead of tracing a shape around the mining node, you will now have to heat a specific spot on the mining node to the right temperature. And from the footage, it looks like it takes about half the time it does now, so that's pretty good as well. Now, they also mentioned that K-drives will have their own mods, and that while there are no new operator mechanics coming with Fortuna, they are planning to add additional amplifiers. Then, just like with Plains of Eidolon and the Ostron, we're gonna get new operator cosmetics that are themed around Fortuna and Orvalis. And the final thing they talked about in relation to Fortuna was the new pet Moas, which, my god, they look awesome. So one thing we've already known was that we will be able to build our pet Moas, we just weren't really sure how it was gonna work, and now we do. So the Moas come with 4 different parts: the head, which determines the precepts of the Moa, the core, the gear, and the brackets. You can also give them different emotion modules, which are just cosmetics and basically just change the personality of the Moa. Now, the most important part of the Moa is of course going to be the head, because it changes the precepts, and the one they've shown was the para head, which will give it a tether mine that it can deploy, and then an attack that reverses gravity and does some impact damage. But an important thing they've mentioned is that the precepts aren't locked to specific heads, you just unlock them by building Moas with different heads, and once you do, you'll be able to freely switch between them. Next up, we finally got a proper showcase of Garuda, the new gore-based Warframe, and they actually just went through everything. So the passive is that the lower her health is, the more damage she will do. Her first ability is kind of complicated, so what it does is it makes her jump onto an enemy, tear them to shreds, drain their blood, and create a shield in front of her for a set duration that kind of acts like Volt Shield. And the blood that you harvested from that enemy will be hovering above you as an orb, and you can charge it using your own energy and throw it at enemies to do damage. Yeah, just a little bit complicated. Then her second ability will impale an enemy onto a blood spear and create an effect around them that will siphon health from the enemy to you. Her third ability will chunk some of your health and give you energy instead, which is really good because of the passive where you do more damage the lower on health you are. And the fourth and final ability basically creates a tornado of blades around you that will suck enemies in and damage them while you can freely move around. We also know what her signature weapon is going to be. It's going to be a crossbow, but the one they were using wasn't modded, so we don't really know how it's going to perform. Next on the menu were some changes to Titania and Nick. So for Titania, Tribute will only require 1 target to maximize each buff. Lantern can be cast up to 4 times at once, and the lanterns will then be able to be detonated by holding down the button, and Razorwing will be getting Loot Vacuum, kind of like Arcwing. And for Nyx, she's getting a whole new passive called Misfire, where she's basically getting evasion because the enemies can't really tell which Nyx is the right one, so they have an accuracy debuff when targeting her. Mind Control is getting a bit of a buff where when you first mind control a target, there will be a 4-second period where any damage the target takes will be added to its damage once it's mind controlled. Psychic bolts are being made into a debuff where enemies you hit with it will lose defenses like armors and shield for a short duration, and it will solo infested units and deactivate infested auras as well. And while they didn't really tell us what they're doing with Absorb, they are changing something about it. And then there's some smaller stuff like being able to change your focus school while you're in your arsenal, not just with your operator. They're adding a new fetch mod for companions, which, as you can see, detects and collects items within 11.5 meters for its master, including mods, so hopefully it works like vacuum. And then there's Atlas Deluxe, which is just a moisturizer of a skin. I mean, just look at it, oh my god, it is awesome. And that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. So yeah, some really cool stuff right there. I thank you very much for watching. As always, guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.